In this video, I'm going to talk about why you or every single person needs one of these bad boys. A 35mm for photography and videography. So when it comes to 35mm prime, if you don't know what the difference is, well, a zoom lens has the ability to zoom in and zoom out. Well, that prime does not, and it's a fixed focal length. But now we got that basics out of the way. I'm going to be talking about the Nikkor AF-S 35mm 1.8G and why I think a lot of people, if they had the money to buy one lens besides the kit lens, it's this bad boy. So when it comes to actually having a 35mm, it's best for portraits. Because of its fast aperture, it shoots at 1.8. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it for photography shooting wide open because you're much sharper at 2.2. But when it comes to film, I definitely recommend. I personally shoot this wide open for my professional styled videos. And one that I like about this lens, it is so darn sharp compared to this lens that you're seeing right now on the 18 to 55 3.5 to 5.6 kit lens, is that once you put this lens on that body, you'll be amazed of what it's capable of. And besides your typical 35mm, it's good for portraits, but it's also good at landscapes. You think 1.8, 2.2 isn't really sharp when it comes to things like landscapes, but boy, it can do landscapes. Because your focal range is at such a shallow depth of field, if you focus on the out, chances are whatever is up close is not in focus, and you can get a pretty sharp landscape picture and or video. So when it comes to 35mm lenses, I use it for interviews, really good. And even for some close-up shots, although you can't get macro shots with the 35mm, it's pretty darn versatile for a prime lens. So whether or not you're a photographer, videographer, cinematographer, and you're on a budget and you're looking to expand from that typical kit lens that you do use, I think y'all should all have a 35mm fast aperture 1.8. And or the other lens, which I'll talk about, is your typical 17 to 50 2.8. That is also a potential alternative if you don't want to go for a prime but you still want a decent focal length. So when it comes to actually using this bad boy, the pros are super sharp, fast aperture, and really bang for your buck. You're not gonna get another lens at that price retailing from 180 to 250 for like anything else. Like, I had my return on investment on this lens via 1 or 2 shoots. But at the same time, when it comes to shooting with 35mm, there's also a lot of downfalls, right? Especially with this one, there's no, if you're using a D5200, there's no image stabilization or VR or vibration reduction. And you have to end up using a lot of warp if you want to use this lens for video. Best bang for its buck, and it's definitely, you'll see your return on investment. If you do things like interviews, do things like short film style, you can't lose with this lens.